AMN Drivetime is sponsored by Aisn, your trusted and reliable source for aftermarket automotive components and technology. Visit AisnAftermarket.com for more information.
Gentlemen, welcome to AMN Drivetime, sponsored by Aisn. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So, I want to start by talking to you about your respective paths to the aftermarket. Dwayne, you've been the Vice President of Aisn's Aftermarket Division in Torrance since 2020, but you've been connected to the Aisn group of companies going back to 1989. You don't look that old. Tell us a little about your career path and how you got started in the aftermarket, and then Laura will come to you afterwards.
Well, coming from Detroit, in the era that I came up in Detroit, you had about a 75% chance of working for the automotive industry if you were to get a job around the area. So that's kind of what happened to me. I took a job in automotive. It was a startup company for Aisn called Autech, who did transmission remanufacturing. And so I started working there. I actually left Detroit Diesel to move there because I wanted to get into a smaller operation that was a ground-up opportunity, allowed me the chance to wear multiple hats and have a lot of responsibility at a relatively young age. So it all worked out. I've built my way through there, and then I had an opportunity once my family got grown and I was an empty nester. I had the opportunity to move over to Aisn proper and run their Texas aftermarket sales department. And then I had the opportunity to move to California now and take over the Aisn full aftermarket. And it's kind of a surprise to me in 2020 when they asked me to take it over, because when it came in, I had two people that were above me in the org chart, but they both decided to retire when the pandemic came around. So it was a opportunity that I wasn't expecting, but I've really enjoyed it, and I'll never look back. It's been a fun time.
Terrific. So how long have you been in California now?
Been in California 3.5 years.
Got it. So, Larrow, you are born and raised in Greater Los Angeles.
Born and raised.
So you started your career, I think, at Hitachi, but maybe someplace before then. Mm-hmm. And you were in the Hitachi aftermarket division for 10 years or so. How did you get started in the business? And did you grow up always wanting to be in the automotive aftermarket?
You know, my mom tells a story about how when I was a little kid that she could put me on the floor and give me Hot Wheels, and I would just be sitting there all day playing with Hot Wheels. So I guess in a sense, maybe I was born into the automotive world in a sense. But honestly, growing up, car guy, had friends that dad had a car garage, and so we would kind of wrench and do kind of midnight auto with him in the evening. And so kind of instantly got gravitated to automobiles. And then in regards to getting a job in the industry, maybe not such a direct route. Had been a produce manager for many years, working at a natural foods market, and really wanted to switch gears. And people had often told me that, you should try sales. And I was like, no, I don't want to go into sales. And then an opportunity came up where I had a chance to work with a Japanese company, Tier 1 company by the name of 3Bon, Tier 1 supplier to all the Japanese automotive companies. And ended up getting that position, stayed there for about 3 years, then got headhunted over into Hitachi to take over their performance division at that time, and did that, and then subsequently ended up taking over their aftermarket division. And then from there, left to go from working with Tier 1s to go work on the other side of the fence with true aftermarket company called Rich Porter for a little while, taking care of the western part of the U.S. for them. And then an opportunity presented itself to kind of come back to OE at Aisn, and that's kind of how I ended back here. So yeah, kind of in a sense always been connected to cars in one way or another.
Dwayne, you started your current role as Vice President of the Aftermarket Division in April of 2020. With everything going on in the spring of 2020, pandemic kind of started March 20th, plus or minus, right? Interesting time to take on a new role. Leaving home, moving out to LA. What were some of the challenges you faced? Any lessons learned from that experience?
Definitely. Lots of challenges. As with most aftermarket suppliers that were importing, At that time, we had supply chain issues. So as soon as I came on board, pandemic was fully up and in, and we had to adapt. And so during that period, we started building back orders because, of course, our freight wasn't coming over. Either it was a manufacturing issue in Japan, or it was a materials issue to the vendors, or it was a freight delivery system problem in the ports of LA as they got backed up. So it gave us a lot of time when we weren't shipping product to fix things, because we knew eventually we wanted to grow, we wanted to get bigger, and do our job better for our customers. So what we took the opportunity to do is expand our operations and do more with the warehouses that we have here in the U.S. So we implemented new warehouse software to help us manage the day-to-day. We reconfigured the California warehouse, and we shifted some of our operations around in different departments to be more efficient. So by taking that opportunity when we couldn't ship and the materials weren't flowing the way we wanted them to, we were able to come on strong once the logjam broke and we were able to get all that product in. So what I've learned is, even though, one door closes with the material, a window opened, and we took that window of opportunity to move forward and do something for ourselves, even during those bad times. So it was a good time for us overall, and now our customer satisfaction level is higher. Our delivery rates back to normal, and we're doing a really good job with our record sales year last year in the aftermarket, being able to deliver the goods, get out of back order, and sustain our business.
Yeah, good things came out of the pandemic. It was a challenging time, but a lot of the folks we're talking about got some real powerful lessons learned. So for both of you gentlemen, Aisn has a rich history of innovation dating back to 1965, when the company was founded in Japan as the Aisin, I'm not going to pronounce this correctly, Seiki, S-E-I-K? Seiki Company. In April of 21, the company turned the page on a new chapter when Aisin Seiki merged with Aisin AW, which was Aisin's automatic transmission subsidiary. From your perspectives, how has the merger positioned Aisin Aftermarket for continued growth and continued innovation? And perhaps, again, both of you may want to make a comment.
Well, I can go back and tell some of the story with the Aisn group, because Aisin Seiki was founded in 1965, as you said, and what's not so commonly remembered now is in 1969 they joint ventured with Borg Warner to make Aisin Warner Company, which specialized in transmissions, and then that company grew over a 20-year span. And then Borg Warner wanted to dissolve the joint venture, and then Aisin Warner became Aisin AW. And then what used to be, because Aisin Seiki was the parent company to Aisin AW at one point, what became was a parent-child relationship became more of a angry brother situation.
Oh, got it.
So that went on for a number of years in as far as who was the more prosperous and most innovative part of the organization, which one was which. So in these 2021, when they decided to merge, what they basically did was decided to bring in the best of both, because they're both facing an unsure future with the change from traditional drivetrain to electric vehicles. So bringing them together, I think, is a very good move from an engineering standpoint and a product development standpoint. They both have their strong points, things that they were really good at. I think by bringing them together as one organization, the synergy there will help us move into the future, transition very well into the new climate that comes forward with the EVs. So I think it's a good move overall.
So Laura is the senior sales manager at Aisn. Any thoughts from you on the topic?
Yes, so I believe, as Dwayne kind of alluded to, you have AW, which was kind of movement, right, in regards to a vehicle, and that was their strength. And with Aisn, a lot of our cooling technology from our water pump expertise, and how that moves forward to EVs is, of course, the transportation or the actual propulsion of an EV is a lot different. The transmission, they don't have transmissions per se. And so with AW's technology, we were able to come up with the e-axle type of things that we're doing now. And that's kind of like allowing vehicles to become four-wheel drive much easier than they were in the past. And then on the coolant side, you have a lot more batteries, a lot more things that need superior cooling. And so we're going from what would be on the Aisn side, a single water pump in the past, to these coolant modules that might have 5 different individual water pumps inside one module handling different parts of the system. So you have the propulsion side coming from AW and the cooling side coming from Aisn. So I think really it's a really marriage made in heaven in regards to setting us in a path to be able to handle what EV brings down the line.
Later in 21, Aisin Aftermarket launched new corporate branding, new logo, new packaging in the Americas. Walk us through the thinking behind the new branding and the packaging strategy, and what were your objectives with the rebranding? So, who would like to go first? Dwayne,
I can go first on that one. The brand itself, the logo, and the Aisn logo change was directly affiliated with the merger of the two companies.
Yep.
So that it was a fair exchange of shares there, and the companies merging together. It was a sign that it was a new company, a new Aisn. So it birthed the new Aisn logo. But as far as the packaging for the aftermarket, that was kind of an opportunity that was grabbed on by our corporate headquarters for aftermarket, who decided to put a similar face on Aisn across the globe, because we have operations in Europe and in parts of Asia, in the Americas. So various entities such as part of our company is Advix, and then AW was separate, and then some other entities had their own packaging and idea about design and what Aisn meant. Well, this came forward into our packaging when it came to aftermarket products, and somewhat, and Larrow can touch on this, a little bit confusing to the customers to why it wasn't a uniform look. But our aftermarket headquarters decided to grab onto that opportunity and make a global change in the packaging that would unify the look and the feel of the new Aisn and the new Aisn logo. So I think it's a good thing for our customers. It kind of aligns our products, no matter what they might be, into one look and feel. So if it's on a shelf, it's Aisn by the look. So I think overall it was a great move. I kudos to the package designers in Japan that took care of that.
So speaking right, what Dwayne was alluding to, when you walk into a warehouse distributor and you kind of want to see the Aisn name, and you would see competitors, and it would be consistent. You would look at that shelf and you would just see, okay, that whole shelf is that particular brand. And when you came into Aisn, you would see some packaging that was the Aisn blue box. You would see some that was the Aisn scatter print box. You would see Advix products on there, and everyone had its own different look. So if you wanted to look at the Aisn aisle, somebody that didn't really know Aisn couldn't walk in and go, where is Aisn at? Because it's this, and this. And so now with the unified and concentrated, just one design, language, you can walk into a warehouse and kind of see, oh, this is the Aisn. So I think it's great in regards to, for us, for WDs, to kind of show the unity in regards to all of our brand and all the different products that we have, but also to the consumer as well, or the end user or the installers. They can see a little more consistency in regards to the Aisn packaging.
So that really relates to the next question too. So Aisn's product portfolio covers a wide range of systems and parts categories. Don't need to tell you guys. Cooling, drivetrain, engine body, electronics, steering, brakes, chemicals, fluids, right? What do you see as the biggest growth opportunities for Aisn in the aftermarket going forward as you consider all your products?
I believe that one of the things that's consistent, whether it's EV, whether it's ICE, is the braking systems, right? So the cars, EVs, are much heavier, they're much larger, they may be even the same size as maybe, or weigh as much as an SUV, but it's actually just a sedan, right? And so that's putting increased pressure on suspension components, braking components. So we believe through braking and the need for increased advanced technology when it comes to braking, that's going to create a significant opportunity for us in the future. So we do believe that Aisn is going to be around, or Advix in that regards, is going to be around for a long time. So I think that's a significant growth opportunity for us. And in regards to EVs, there's some things that we're kind of putting in play right now. Some things we can talk about, some things we can't talk about. But in regards to the EV world, we're kind of putting things in place where that we're going to be not only a known name today for the things you know us for, our timing belt kits and our water pumps, but for the future products as well. So I think we're going to be positioning ourselves in a way that it's going to allow, we're going to be relevant now and we're relevant in future to installers and to WDs.
Guys, you've mentioned EV several times during our visit so far. It's getting a lot of press. I would say more in the last year than the previous 3 or 4 or 5 years combined. It's really amping up.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on it? Sometimes you think it's all going to happen tomorrow, and other people say it's 10 years away before it's a meaningful part of the car park. What are your general thoughts on it?
Oh, that's a good question. It's kind of got two parts for us, and partly because Aisin OE is moving a lot of their assets to be able to handle and work a conversion to the electrification for still servicing Toyota products and still expanding and being viable in the future. By doing that, they are going to remove some of the opportunities that we're going to have for the traditional combustion engine. So as they pivot, we're going to have to pivot in a different direction ourselves. So we are looking, as Larrow said, into other commodities. One of our headquarters, aftermarket headquarters edicts is to expand and be a more inclusive auto parts supplier. And so we are going to try to venture into products that aren't traditionally Aisn. And then, some of the challenges with that is we've talked about how are we going to brand that and keep the Aisn name and the brand, high quality Aisn product that our customers are used to. So there's a little bit of challenge with that we're trying to work through before we, leap in and do those types of moves. And of course, we're going to look at some local product, not just global product, but some local product to introduce into the market later this year that goes toward our remanufacturing side to help with electrification and batteries and specifically. So we are looking at some opportunities outside the box that is currently familiar Aisn. And globally, Aisn is gearing itself up, from the OE side to be positioned to thrive during the electrification process of vehicles. So from a aftermarket side, I don't think that the electrification is going to take over anytime in the near future, within with too much impact. I believe that we've still got quite a few years of our traditional product life cycle out there that we can go through before we are going to be forced to change dramatically, but we are looking at it. We are preparing ourselves. We know it's inevitable, but I would like to be able to keep our traditional side as well as work on new opportunities as they fit our brand and make sense to us. Because one thing we don't want to do after being in business since 1970 as an aftermarket provider here in the U.S. is to confuse our customers and totally mess up our brand that we've taken so much hardship to grow and turn into a high quality name. So
Larrow, would you want to add to that at all?
I think glass half full. I believe that the adoption, and it may be regional based, being based out of California, maybe my viewpoint, is a little bit different possibly than, maybe somewhere in some of the other states or regions of the United States. but you can't help but being in California and know the adoption rate is really, really high. Really, really high when it comes to people moving to EV. And granted, there may be a lot of things that are tied to that, whether it's tax benefits that are specific to California or other things that like that. But I actually see, as you come to the midterm elections, you're probably going to see more things on ballots that have to do with subsidies or things that are going to try to get people to move more quickly to EVs than maybe we've seen in the past few years. Again, talking outside of California. So I believe that it is coming, and it's, I think people are going to debate whether it's going to be sooner or faster, but I believe, or later I should say, but I believe that there's so much investment that's been done by not only the big three, but everybody in a sense, in some way, shape, or form. Even the ones that had originally said that they kind of walked back a little bit, now they've kind of changed tune and started kind of walking back into that, because I think the conversation is, if you're not in, then you're against kind of thing. And I think there's been some pressure on that side. And so with that, between the government trying to help out in regards to subsidies and so on and so forth, you see a lot of investment in battery plants across different states in the United States right now. So there's so much that's being built up. And eventually someone has to make money on this, right? Whether you're a public company and the shareholders going, hey, you just invested $20 billion into EV, when are you going to start selling them? And I believe that, Tesla has the right idea. They're trying to work on bringing that price down, right? And we've seen recently in California where there were some significant price reductions that they've done, and the number of people that converted really quickly was amazing. So I believe that it's only going to gain momentum from here on out.
Interesting comment on being in California. I think half of the EV car park is in California.
Yes.
Or close to it.
Most definitely.
Right?
Most definitely.
California has seen the influx much quicker than, say, Texas.
Most definitely. Yeah. Most definitely. And I don't know, there's some states that kind of follow emission-wise things that California does with our cardboard. They're a little kind of forward thinking, let's just say, in regards to some of the things that they do.
Spoken like a true Californian.
Yeah, some people may say backward thinking if you're from other parts of the world that are in the country. Having said that, though, I think there are those states that kind of follow along, whether it's Massachusetts or other things that kind of follow along emission-wise. And so if they continue to build that traction, there's the infrastructure that, the battery plants and so forth that's being built for, across multiple brands. There's a lot of jobs there. There's a lot of things there. There's the profit motive. So I think there's a lot of energy that's going to really want this to be successful in the end of the day.
A lot of investment going on.
Yes.
So, Dwayne, this question is just for you. I understand you ran the 2016 Rock and Roll Marathon in Vegas. And I ran a marathon many years ago. I did Chicago, which was flat as a pancake. Took me a long time to do it. But was that your first marathon? And clarify me for the Vegas Marathon, did they take you 26 miles out and you just go one way in, or how does that work?
It's, that's funny. I did the Chicago Marathon as well.
Okay.
There are half marathons that I did. I'd never done a full marathon, but I was kind of dragged into this kicking and screaming.
Isn't everybody?
Because my wife wanted us to have an activity that we could do together. And she was a true marathoner. She would do the full marathon. She's done 6 or 7 or so around the country. Detroit Marathon, Chicago. She did the Rock and Roll. She's done one in Texas. She's done a lot. But she got me involved, and I did a couple of them. I did the half marathon in Detroit. I've done one in Chicago, and then I did the one in Vegas. And the one in Vegas, yes, you basically just run down the strip, out of Las Vegas proper, in between the new strip and the old strip. You go around so a little bit of the old strip, and then you come back, over by the Golden Nugget, that hotel. You're running around there. Then you come back and run the strip and finish right on the strip. Yeah. So it's basically an out and back kind
Yep.
of run. But I don't do that anymore. I kind of got out of that after that marathon. Actually, that was the last one I ever did. And then I switched over to doing duathlons, which I liked a little more because I'm more of a cyclist, and I could mix short
and run,
runs and
yeah.
longer bikes. So I really liked that much better than the pure running. And
So what was the time in Vegas?
oh, I don't remember. It was like almost 3 hours. It was a slow half
Three's
marathon.
fast. Oh,
It was a half.
Oh yeah, that-
I'd be
record
Boston
breaker.
Marathon.
Oh my
I'd
God.
be Boston
Well,
Marathon.
I was 5:08 in Chicago, and I couldn't have gone 1 second faster. So
No, I had an injury that was nagging me, so I ended up slowing down when I got out by the Golden Nugget. So I kind of limped ran home, back down the strip. So it was that was the reason I quit, was because of that slow time and long race. It seems seemed short, 13 miles. You could do it, but
Yeah.
it felt long when you had an injury. So I got into cycling more, and I never looked back.
And you and I are sort of in the Clydesdale category.
Yeah. I told my wife I'm built for power, not for speed.
Right,
So
right.
Actually, I did the LA Marathon as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the full marathon, not a half one.
Oh.
But
Yeah, the half. It's a little
yeah,
wimpy. It's
no,
okay.
yeah, no. But it was the interesting thing was I'm not a runner at all, and I at the time I was working for a nonprofit called the I Have a Dream Foundation. I was a project coordinator, and so this was kind of the things they were getting involved in, and we would kind of adopt a certain mile stand and kind of have people out there cheering and so on and so forth. They said, we should get somebody to run in it, and so I was like, yeah, I'll do it, right? I thought I was in decent shape or what have you, but again, not being a runner. So I thought, well, a couple weeks before, I'll just start doing some runs and some walk runs kind of thing, right? Thinking again, right? I'm not a marathoner. So I show up to the race and I'm like, mile 2, and I'm just like, yeah, I got this, right? I got this. By mile 6, man, I was done. I was just absolutely done. And this is kind of where, I don't know if a lot of people talk about this. It's one of the greatest things about marathoning. It's not so much the runners, it's the people that are supporting you.
Right.
And I remember coming up to a bus. This was probably like mile 13. And I came up to a bus stop, and I just sat down on the bus stop going, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into, right? But the people that were alongside cheering me on say, don't stop, don't quit, come on, you can do this, you can do this.
Almost
At
there.
every single
Almost
mile.
there. You hear that?
Yeah, 13 more. But that's what got me to the finish line, to be honest. My body was broken down a long time before I got to mile 26.2. But it was the encouragement of the people along the route that wouldn't let me give up on myself. That was the most thing that I took away from.
How old were you at that time?
I was probably in my mid-30s,
pretty
so
impressive.
yeah. So.
You'd never driven a car 24 miles to understand how far that was?
I used to walk a lot, so there's not anyways.
So Laura, for you,
Yes.
I understand you have a collection of Datsuns. What's in the collection, and how did this collection start?
So start-wise, when I was a young man and couldn't drive, on the other side of the block, there were these two brothers, and they had these 2 Datsun 510s. And I used to ride around the block on my bike, and I would always stop at their house and look at these lowered, fixed-up cars back in, the early 80s and think, these are the greatest cars in the world, right? And so I just man, I would love to have one of these ones. So that's kind of where I started with the Datsun, if you will. And then as years would go by in high school, I befriended a guy that somehow we got on the subject of Datsuns, and he had a Datsun 510 at that time, which was the car that I loved. And so we kind of befriended each other and kind of had this affinity for Datsuns. And really from there, it just continued to grow. I finally got my own Datsun and started to work on them and fix them up. And so started with Datsun 510s, but now my collection has gravitated to 240Zs. So I actually own 3 240Zs. In various states of restoration. One is going to be completely stock with the original blue body and the white interior, white vinyl interior, if anybody remembers that. And then I have another one I call the race car, which kind of has a 2JZ twin turbo engine in it, and it's, you know, kind of all decked out race style. And then I have a lovingly a one that's been neglected, but in the garage, but actually is a right-hand drive from Japan, 240Z as well. So yeah, so those are my love for Z cars. So still love them, still drive them. They're all manuals, which, you know, a lot of people probably don't even know how to drive anymore. So,
Right.
so it's kind of exciting just to, you know, maybe have that and pass it on to my daughters, and, you know, kind of hopefully they'll, you know, pick up the love, you know, someday as well. But yeah.
So guys, it is tradition on AMN Drivetime, sponsored by Aisn, do something called a lightning round. So I'm going to ask you a question. Normally, if it's just one person, you get them all, but I'm going to bounce back and forth, okay?
Okay.
So, Laura, I'm going to just ask a quick question. I want a quick answer.
Sure.
So, Laura, Mac or PC?
PC all the way.
Dwayne, day at the beach or day at the pool?
Pool.
Laura, automatic or stick shift?
Stick shift.
Dwayne, road trip or air travel?
Air travel.
Laura, favorite style of cuisine?
Mexican.
Southern California guy, right?
I would have said that.
Guacamole and avocados, yeah, right?
Dwayne, beer, whiskey, or neither?
It's both, but I lean toward whiskey.
Laura, concert or sporting event?
Concert.
Dwayne, last question. Favorite U.S. city to visit?
Favorite U.S. city?
Not Akron, Ohio?
Oh, yeah.
Could be.
Akron, Ohio. No, favorite U.S. city? Man, I've been to a lot. I like Clearwater, Florida, or Naples, Florida. Those two places. So basically, I guess state would be Florida, and then Gulf side, I guess, would be my, if I had to narrow it down. But that's where I like being around there.
Terrific. Great to have you both on AMN Drivetime, sponsored by Aisn. And thank you so much for being the sponsor of AMN Drivetime.
Our
you.
pleasure.
Glad
Thank
to have you here.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
AMN Drivetime is sponsored by Aisn, your trusted and reliable source for aftermarket automotive components and technology. Visit AisnAftermarket.com for more information.